All of you have heard the statements, "I'm tired of all the drama," and "he or she is a drama queen." Drama is the word we use when we want to invalidate an emotional experience, or an extreme reaction to an emotional experience, because the onlooker feels as if it is unnecessary, uncalled for, or an overreaction. As I said in a previous Ask Teal episode, drama is a word that originally meant to act. This is why the word made its debut in the world of performance art and theater. As it relates to emotional life, drama is a state, situation, or series of events involving intense conflict. Put these two things together and you have the definition of a person who is dramatic. A person who is dramatic is a person who acts as if they are in a state of intense conflict. Why do they act as if they're in a state of intense conflict? Because they are in a state of intense conflict. No one overreacts. There has never been a person in the history of this universe or a being that has ever overreacted. We always act in perfect accordance with the reality that we ourselves are perceiving. It just so happens that the reality we are perceiving is not necessarily the reality other people are perceiving. When it applies to the human emotional experience, there is no such thing as drama. For example, there is a perception that a person who is dramatic or who is being a drama queen is either overreacting or is acting for the sake of attention, much like a performer on stage. If this is the case and they are overacting for the sake of attention, they are in a state of extreme conflict because deep down they feel desperate for attention. Deep down they feel unseen, unheard, and unloved. Deep down they distrust and dislike themselves, and so there is no inner peace, and so deep down they are screaming for other people to save them from themselves. So the question must be asked, are they really overreacting, or are they playing out their perception of being unloved, unheard, uncared about on the world? If you invalidate other people's feelings by telling them they are being dramatic, you have learned over the course of your life to invalidate your own feelings. You impose this expectation on others as a result of it. Even though you wish you didn't feel how you really feel, it is time to admit to how you truly feel and to not be ashamed of how you really feel. Feeling deep levels of shame for feeling the way you feel is the real reason that you want to deny and invalidate the way you feel. It is also what is causing you to invalidate how other people feel by making the judgment that they are dramatic. If you have a resistance to drama, it is crucial to remind yourself that no one overreacts, including you. You always act in perfect accordance with the reality that you are perceiving. But now let's go deeper. Let's call drama the never-ending up and down roller coaster of our own emotions. We can't seem to get off of this up and down roller coaster because we are stuck on the surface of things. We are not diving deeper. We're not seeing that the surface events which cause the conflict in our lives are not just triggers, they are messengers that are enabling us to be conscious of something that is buried and suppressed deeply within us. When we want to feel better, we try to change the surface circumstances of our experience. We end the relationship, we move to a different city, we put ourselves on a diet, we sign up to a gym, we take a medication. But by doing this, and only this, by looking for and taking a physical action to feel better, we can never escape the original conflict for long. It simply resurfaces in the new relationship, in the new city, regardless of how our diet changes, or how much we exercise, or what medication we take. We perpetuate drama in our lives if the changes that we make change the surface symptom of our problems instead of the deep causation of our pain. For example, let's say I'm overweight. Emotionally, I feel terrible. The fatness I'm experiencing is a physical effect of the problem. It is, in essence, a surface symptom of the problem, which is much deeper. If I dive deeper into myself and my pain, I will find that I feel a deep sense of shame and that as a child, I could never live up to the demands of other people. So my body tried to protect itself by walling itself off to the demands of others by putting on fat. If I change my perceptions surrounding the demands of others and begin to develop self-esteem, there will be no need for the fat anymore, and I will begin to lose fat. Then I may feel inspired to get a gym membership or eat better, but those changes will be inspired from a shift that was made on a much deeper level. However, if I simply started going to the gym and put myself on a diet from the get-go without being aware of and integrating the blocked emotion of shame, there would be no end to the internal conflict causing the fatness in myself. There would be no end to the drama in my life. I would be trying to change the physical surface effect of my problem instead of impacting the causality of the problem. Long story short, we must dive deeper into ourselves. So how does somebody dive deeper? We dive deeper by recognizing triggers. A trigger is a reminder of a past trauma. It is called a trigger because, like a trigger on a weapon, once it is pulled, i.e. shows up in your reality, it sets off an instantaneous and immediate emotional response within the body. And we call this response an emotional charge. We witness triggers causing these charged emotional states quite often in conjunction with post-traumatic stress disorder. You've all heard of it. This is the example of the post-war veteran who returns home, and when the 4th of July fireworks go off, he's freaking out and jumping under the table in his house because he's convinced that he's back in that traumatic memory. The traumatic memory resurfaces. He's back in the line of fire. But what you don't understand is it does not take post-traumatic stress disorder, especially diagnosed PTSD, in order to have triggers. In fact, all people on the surface of this earth have triggers. To understand a more common expression of these triggers, let's look at a common life example. A woman gets into a new relationship. Everything is going great. The relationship is full of promise. Until one day her partner decides to go see his friends after work at the bar instead of checking in with her and prioritizing seeing her in his off time. Upon discovering that he's prioritized his friends over her, she feels instantly overwhelmed with feelings of anger and powerlessness. She feels neglected and worthless. She doubts the relationship and lashes out verbally at him. The event itself was a trigger for a deep, unhealed grief within her. At face value, it would seem like she overreacted. In fact, it would seem like she was a drama queen. This is exactly what her partner thinks that she is. Her partner thinks that she has overreacted, and now he is doubting the relationship as well. If she was to recognize the extreme emotional charge as evidence of a trigger and use the trigger of the event to dive deeper within herself, she would have discovered that the reaction to the event was a surface symptom of her deeper unresolved trauma and unintegrated grief. If she would have used the trigger to dive deep, she would have discovered that she felt neglected and worthless when her father would prioritize everything else over her when she was a child. She would discover that he was disconnected from her and that this disconnection and perceived lack of love that she felt from her father was a deep wound within her. It was in fact the thing that caused her to feel worthless and powerless in the first place. The level of reactivity that she demonstrated with her boyfriend was not a reaction to him. It was a reaction to her father. You will recognize a trigger in this way. Triggers always give rise to uncomfortable emotion, to extreme emotion. They will make you want to react, either to attack or defend yourself. When we experience a trigger, we will feel instantly powerless and so sad and so full of grief that we can't hold back the tears, or else we might feel so instantly enraged that we want to smash something or kill someone. Drama, meaning an intense state of internal conflict, is in essence a reactive progression. It is designed to get other people to give us the attention that we could not give ourselves. We can end drama in our lives by using our triggers as flags to dive deeper within ourselves to find the root of our emotional reactions. We can use them to dive deep to find our buried, unresolved, and unintegrated grief. Once we find the causality of our emotional conflict, we can adjust that. In fact, finding the causality of our conflict changes it. Think of it like digging up a buried corpse. Just ask an archaeologist. Similarly to exposing a buried corpse to air, exposing your buried grief to the air of awareness changes it forever. The surface behaviors, appearances, and circumstances of our lives will automatically shift as a result of adjusting the causality of our buried emotional pain. This leads to permanent relief and change, instead of temporary relief and temporary change. I'm not saying that we should stop taking any kind of physical action whatsoever. I'm saying that taking any kind of physical action before we have used the trigger to dive emotionally deep within ourselves and to change the causality of our grief or our reaction, we have solved nothing. That trigger will continue to contain its charge, and that previous original circumstance which caused the trauma will continue to reflect itself into our experience. We will re-experience it and re-experience it and re-experience it until we are willing to see that red flag and use that to dive deeper within ourselves. Step 1 is to recognize our triggers as triggers. Naming them as such changes them. It makes it so that you have stepped back from that emotional reaction and you are now observing your reaction instead of living it. Step 2 is to recognize the messengers. The messengers are the surface events which cause that extreme, uncomfortable reaction within you. Those things are not things that are happening to you. They are not new. They are reflections. They are messengers of that deep, unresolved wound within you. So instead of shooting the messengers, recognize them and name them as such. In a previous episode titled The Feeling Body, I explained a process which you can take in order to reintegrate these suppressed traumatic memories, in order to reintegrate your emotions. This is the very same process we have to use when we are dealing with a trigger. So if you can, go back and watch that video. But for those of you who already have, I'll give you a refresher. Step 1, when we are triggered, we need to sit with that emotion. We do not need to escape it. We do not need to change it. Don't go get your cigarette. Don't go try to make yourself feel better. Don't get someone else to try to make you feel better. Sit and be completely present with the way that that emotion feels, with the sensation. Breathing in and out. I want you to remind yourself and your emotions of speaking to them. I am completely here with you now. Then you have to ask yourself 3 questions. The first question, how do I feel? Name the feelings and emotions and sensations within you. Allow yourself to feel the aspects of your experience that you've long since suppressed. 2, ask yourself, when did I last experience this exact same feeling? Let yourself visualize that experience fully so that the emotional state becomes very real. Let your subconscious offer up the answer to you in the form of an emotion, a feeling, a sensation, or /and images. 3, when did I first experience the same feeling in my life? Let yourself go all the way back. In reality, you're not going all the way back. You are inviting the past to become a part of the present. You are allowing the past to reintegrate with the now. Even if what you see and what you sense makes no sense whatsoever, take note of the images you see and the feelings and the smells and the sensations within your body. Why do you think you're feeling what you're feeling? What is the circumstance? Yet again, you need to be patient with this process. There is no wrong way to do this process, and your emotional integration process will occur organically on its own. If you cognitively understand why you are feeling the way you're feeling suddenly, it's because you were meant to have that cognitive understanding for your emotional development. If you don't get that insight, it's because you are simply meant to reintegrate an emotion, most likely an emotion that occurred before you had your capacity for cognitive reasoning. That's before age 8. You are solely in a feeling experience of the world instead of a mental experience of the world. That's okay. Feeling those feelings is enough to integrate them completely. From the point that you're taken back into that memory where you experienced the original trauma, if you feel like you want to and that it's correct for you, you can alter the original experience, keeping in mind that even witnessing, even observing or feeling that experience reintegrates it. But if we want, we can take a step further to make it better. The adult self can help the child self. We can remedy the situation. We can observe the memory and then mentally alter that memory in a way that feels emotionally positive. This is what they call inner child work. Some of you may blow this practice off because you feel as if spending time in this non-tangible reality doesn't do any good because it doesn't really enact change. This could not be farther from the truth. Everything in your life is a byproduct, an effect of the causality of your childhood trauma. Going back into your experience and changing the root of that trauma changes all of the branches that are coming off of that trauma. If you go back enough and do this kind of process, you're the kind of person who will stop smoking one day. Not because you did anything to stop smoking itself, but because you reintegrated some suppressed and non-integrated emotion that was actually causing your desire to smoke in the first place. The circumstances of your life will change without exception on their own as a result of altering the cause of those circumstances, which is always past trauma. This process allows us to take our attention off of the messenger of the current event in our life that's causing us to feel upset. It takes us to a place where we are able to remove our consciousness from the trigger, and instead of reacting to that trigger, to be in a space of response, where we are capable of using the trigger as a red flag to dive deeper within ourselves, to recognize the unresolved grief and emotional issues within us that are imprints which exist in us still. Once we do this, that blocked emotion is able to reintegrate with our being. This is deep emotional healing, because it is reintegration. And so, the most important thing we can do in our lives is to stop acting as if anything is drama, and to treat drama like it really is, which is a trigger asking us to dive deeper. Have a good week.